6 o'clock. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Madison County Board of Commissioners agenda work setting, March 1st, 2021, 6 p.m. I'll start off with the chairman's report. Just for the board and for the people in this room, we've been very busy. We have a lot going on, and I'll get into that in just a second. I would like to thank you people in attendance tonight. Ms. Shelley, I appreciate you showing up. You'll see later in this agenda that she will come up with some stuff that we have going on. And everybody else, first off, because I don't know how much time Mark has tonight, I think the board may know Mark Perry. I'd asked Mark to attend tonight, and under the chairman's report, I'll introduce him. Trying to get some clarity on some of Derek's questions with the fire department. I felt like I couldn't answer them clear enough because of my limited fire experience, and I felt like Mark was the best person for that. So I've asked Mark to speak on behalf to try to answer any questions Derek may have about the fire department. So feel free. No, you don't have to get up. This is a work session. Keep your seat. Bring a cup of coffee. So any particular questions about the fire department? You was asking the other day about, why would we donate the land to them? What needs would they actually need it for? Technically, the legality side of it says that, that we got the dirt, they got the building, which entails, means we have the building too. And we found some paperwork, and I don't know if it's in the agenda. Yeah, so we found some paperwork on Tuesday after the meeting showing that the county had actually given property before the fire departments. That was, I think Comer City give Comer land at one time, or Colbert. Colbert City give Colbert land for their fire department. The county give land for Nice Commerce Fire Department at one time. Huh?
They sold the land.
Sold the land for
$25,000 to Nice Colbert, Nice Sanford.
Yes, ma'am. And then somebody got it for $15, but I didn't understand what $15 from. That was maybe in the third. I don't remember which department it was. Do you remember, Mark?
No, I don't think we should, I know.
I can't remember either. We have a list, but I don't remember. But anyway, I know there were some questions, and we wanted to table it, but I felt like the work session's the best place to get the questions answered, so that's the reason I brought Mark in for his source of knowledge about fire and buildings and structures and stuff like that. Any particular questions we can open up with him for?
Well, the general questions I had last week, was it last week? Mark, was the county has some property, has a resource, taxpayers have it, and then there were several properties, fire stations, been a couple of them, were suggested that we deed that property over there for the use of the fire department. Now, I fully support the fire departments, and my question, I guess, that really arose is are we taking a kind of a too quick a view to like dispose of the property, get it to them, and then, my concern is what if a volunteer fire department went, ceased to exist for whatever reason, members, get older and nobody replenishes it. I mean, just for whatever reason, they decide not to continue. And we've lost an asset that we put out there and given it to an entity that we can't possibly, now I shouldn't say possibly, can't rely on getting it back to the community for some other particular reason or whatnot. And all I've been told was kind of it's a good thing for the fire departments to have, because if they own the land, they can borrow money against it, which is understandable. But the other part of me was, how does this look? Is there a bigger vision or a long-term county plan? I mean, I even said it, I have no illusions that we're not gonna have volunteer fire service for, that we're gonna have paid service. I'm not suggesting that. But my question was really it just felt like it was fairly quick You know, was really, had been a lot of discussion, you know, y'all weren't here to kind of have that conversation, and I hadn't really seen a proposal on why and when, and, you know, some of the things. I know some of the volunteer departments, or most of them probably have, you know, done their own fundraisers and bought their own land, and now we're hearing that the county sold some for $25,000 and possibly gave some to some, so. There was a lot of process and nuances there that just, I wasn't comfortable just saying, hey, you turned it over, and then there was some legality questions of, can we really give it to somebody, or if we have to put it out for public bid, and then who can help somebody from being a jackleg and, you know, swooping in and buying something out from under what we think was kind of supposed to be a friendly purpose.
The $25,000 figure, I think, stemmed from Niece Sanford bought some land over on the Niece Commerce Road that was in conservation. Had a conservation covenant on the tax on the land, it's right there at the NGC tower there. And that money just passed through the county. The county could buy that and it not revoke the conservation on the tax on the property. The property owner wouldn't sell that land to the fire department because he would have to pay all the reduced taxes and a penalty. So the county didn't really sell that land to them for $25,000. That $25,000 passed through the county where the Niece Sanford Fire Department bought the land, and it went to the county, and then from the county to the volunteer fire department. They bought that 25 acres of land from a landowner, but it had to pass through the county because it was in conservation, and it either gonna have to wait 10 years or 5 years, or whatever was left on the conservation. So I don't think the county has sold anybody any, you know, just straight out sold a piece of land they had for that amount of money. The $15 probably sounds more legitimate if it was a piece sold. I tried to look on the tax records to see, you know, where different pieces of land came from over the years, and a little bit hard. In 1970, the Danielsville Fire Department was created, and we didn't have anything. And the old cannery building, which is just torn down a few years back, but was, it was just an abandoned building that was sitting on county property there, right below where the fire hall is now. And the county leased that land to the city, and from the city to the volunteer fire department. And it's been that way ever since. And 1980, we built the first part of that building, and I don't think we financed any of that at that time. But since then, we built on it a couple times, and had to finance some of that. And of course, you couldn't use the building to stand for itself. So that was when it first started about trying, you know, and in previous administrations, they talked about it was easier to swap land, you know, and we've looked at possibly a parcel of land. That's just buying bad land to swap for what we needed the buildings already own. And when it came up this time about it, looked like it would be a possibility for the county to get that transferred to us so we could use. You know, we've had several members that had to, you know, co-sign with the fire department in order, you know, it impacts their personal credit, things like that we'd rather get away from and let the fire department stand for itself. It's been there 51 years, and it's never defaulted on anything, and it's all on a matter of trust, you know. I watched y'all's meeting from last week. I didn't know it was coming up for discussion, and I'd have been here, but we all 11 fire departments and rescue finance things from time to time, and it's based on a working relationship with the county, and having a trust between us that the Danielsville Fire Department bought its first commercial pumper in 1988, financed it for 10 years. In 1998, we bought our second one and financed it for 10 years. About 2010, we bought the third one, and So now the first one is 33 years old, and it's time for it to be phased out, and it's time to buy another one. But, if we don't have that, we've had a contract for 30 years with the county, and I'm not saying that there don't need to be some things changed, but for the fire department to continue to function and go forward, they've gotta have the thinking that that's gonna continue. Cause if not, nobody's gonna sign a note. And, whether it's apparatus or buildings or whatever. And, there's a lot going on in the county, and just about all the fire departments out of the 11, we've got a couple that don't have any pressurized water in their area. That makes it difficult for them to get their ISO rating down. But all the ones that do have some type of water source or class 5 or better. Class 5 is about, it's in the middle. It goes from no fire protection at 10 to class 1. There's only about 1% of the fire departments nationwide that are class 1. Less than 10% are 1 and 2, so there's only about 10% of the fire departments nationwide that have a lower insurance class than some of the departments in Madison County. And that's a big deal. If you're in a class 3, 4, 5, you're paying less than half of what you'd be paying at a 9, or you couldn't buy insurance at a 10. So it's a good value, and we'd like to, have that confidence that we're gonna continue to have support to be able to move forward with the fire departments. And, we get about 730,000, I think, this year in ad valorem tax money. The proceeds from one meal. That meal costs the homeowner $40 per $100,000 of value on their digest, and there's not anybody that's not saving, that's got any insured property that's not saving more than what it cost them by several times. There was some discussion about what SPLOST is spent for, what ad valorem taxes money is spent for, and what raised money is spent for. Mostly SPLOST is spent for something you hold in your hand. You can't do payroll with it, and, yes, sir.
For one, and I appreciate Derek's comments, because I got to thinking about it also. And I think what we're looking for, what the concerns for as much as anything, was an understanding that the volunteer fire departments have something resembling a continuity plan. Do you, Mark, do you still see young men coming on board with you guys now? Or
Recruiting and retention of volunteers is a nationwide problem, all volunteer services. It's more difficult. There's a lot more requirements it takes a lot more time to be a volunteer now than it did.
Yes.
But I think that, there'll be some volunteer involvement for several years.
So you feel that it's stable, that we've got enough folks coming on board, that there will be a volunteer fire department for
That's right.
the foreseeable future?
But I do foresee there being some need for some paid personnel in the daytime hours, because not many people work in Madison County. And a lot of the ones that do are not able to leave their job in the day. We got some, farming people that are in business and different things out here, but it is a struggle. We have a lot better response at night than we do in the daytime. But most everybody's going somewhere else in the daytime. But we've been fortunate to maintain around 200 volunteers countywide for a long time.
I'd say the ones in Hull, we got 18 members right now, and I would say over half of them are 32, 33 and under in ours. So, yeah, I'm one of the older people my department and everything, so.
Anybody have any other questions that maybe that Mark can answer?
Would it be appropriate, Mark, for those that are asking, and I say asking, the ones that need to transfer the land, it seems, you know, you may have done it, and I don't know, but I don't remember seeing it, but maybe it helps from a policy standpoint, maybe if, maybe a formal letter of request. I mean, it's something that we can take and act on and just
Sure.
a little bit more transparent than, and I'm not saying it was done wrong, I'm just,
Right,
sometimes it's hard to sit here and not see something that kind of, you know, how it originated, and so I
Right.
start asking for it. I mean, that's just trying to. and
It-
then-
it's not the first time it's come up, you know, Collins District, when their fire department, first started, they had a little boating house down there, which, they added on to a few times. And, so I think it turned out that maybe they owned the land on both sides of it, not in the middle.
Mhm.
Some of those boating houses were on a type of agreement, as long as it was used as a boating house, they could continue to use it once they ever ceased using it, went back to the property owner. So I think the fire department had opportunity to buy the land next to it after they started using it for a meeting place. It was just a community building. All, you know, it was several years after the fire department started, we got any, county funding. And then it, you know, it started out about $300 a year. And everybody who's been in the fire department for a long time has bought gas for themselves to go in a fire truck. You know, we didn't have anything, and, we've had a contract for probably about 25 years now. It started, sometime during, the time that Western Nash was in, we tied it to a mill. And it was producing about 300,000 at that time. And that's that's been at least 12 years ago that John was here 4 and Emily was here 8, so it was before that it tied to a mill. And then over the years, it went up a little bit every year, and in 2008, it took a tank, went back down, and the county was gracious enough to hold it at the level that it was at. Cause everybody had things financed, we've been losing things, it took that, the proceeds went down about $100,000 in 1 year. And, but we hadn't had any increase until, about 2018 or 19, it went up a few dollars, it stayed at that. The digest didn't recover until then to what it was in 2008 when the housing market crashed. We'd be more than happy to get whatever documentation you need.
There's been discussion about it being going out for bid, right? We still.
Yeah, there's still no provision in the law for just giving away property. It still has to be bid or auction. There is a provision for swapping land, like you said, but bottom line, the county's not permitted to just give away property. It has to go through some process to get value. If it's a swap, you have to have appraisals for both parcels to justify that they're of equal or greater value to the county. So I looked at the reverter clause thing, so, as I recall, reverters are disfavored in the law. Courts will find that it's not valid unless it's clear law that it is. One of the few recognized exceptions where reverter clauses are enforced is if somebody, a private owner, donates land to a charity or a government and says if it ceases to be used for that charitable or governmental purpose, then it reverts back to the private landowner. But there's no support for the proposition it works the other way, that the government can give away land with that kind of clause. So, yeah, I mean, whatever you talk about doing, you're still talking about having to go through a bid or auction process.
So how did, this is just, now that you say that, so DOT, didn't have a reverter clause in that 5 acres down there at 72? So if we didn't use it for something, that they would retain it?
Yeah, they're a government.
Yeah.
They're the grantor. Yes.
Okay. I was making sure that's what it was. Cool. All right, well, thank you, unless y'all have any more questions.
If, when you put the letter together, would you try to articulate what any needs, future needs, because we're, get past the ask first, and then besides the legal wrangling, if you would. What I don't wanna happen too is that we're short-sighted, that, you know, we develop a process, you get a building, and then, you know, next week, 2 years from now, we should have asked for this, or we should have asked for that. Just,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that we're doing it collectively, and again, it's not adversarial, I mean, I appreciate what y'all guys do, and I support all of you, I'm just trying to process it in my mind, so it makes sense, and that's all really is what, you know, maybe I'm thinking it, I probably am, but that's part of it.
Well, that's what you get the big folks for. But, yeah, I don't foresee any of those parcels being, that the fire department's all in the county now, ever being anything but, you know, fire department or revert back to the county. There's nobody in the fire department that thinks they can sell it, go on vacation with it. I don't think that'd ever be an issue that would come up. There'd be different people here.
Yeah.
So,
I thought about something that Commissioner Doster, you know, sort of running with something, he said, an option would be for the county, if it has the funds, to buy the property from the departments that already own theirs. And then the county would be, of course, there'd be no more property tax, so the departments wouldn't be paying tax and maintenance and upkeep and insurance and all those things that they're responsible for now.
The downside of that, then, what if the fire departments decide they need to expand?
Well, I'm just saying, if you're looking towards, going towards at least some more centralized plan, that would be a step in that direction.
That would probably get really convoluted quick. Cause you know, then they would be coming to you for, hey, we got our building, our truck blowed up, but then they have no resources to buy it, so then therefore,
well,
I mean, other than fundraisers or stuff like that.
you know, the one thing about the fire department
But it is an option.
versus other departments in the county is we 100% live within our budget.
Mm-hmm.
You get a check one time a year, and you don't get no more. If you fall on hard times, you just figure it out. And, but, you know, Pokey is in a building there that belongs to the county, and a few years ago, they had some roof problems, and it fell back on the county to put a roof on it, and that might be a good proposition, right?
Yeah, I'm not advocating for it, it's just an idea.
Well, I you know, it was in the discussion that, if the building's on our land, it's our building. That was part of the discussion in the previous meeting. So if it's your building, there's a few things we need you to do to it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can get that with that letter too, you know, that list of things that we need to do, but either we gotta figure out a way to finance and pay for it, or if you wanna take that over, that'd be all right too. But I really appreciate your time and consideration on it, and if there's anything, any information that we can come up with, on it, we'd be glad to.
Mark, I appreciate it, and this is really not gonna go any further until we come back into another work session in the future. Whenever y'all get your letter and fulfill, you know, what Derek's requesting, I think is a fair request. And then we'll go again from there to make sure all the i's is dotted and t's is crossed in the work session before it goes to a meeting again. But thank you again for your time, I appreciate you.
Maybe you could get anything you needed to Mike, and, just go ahead and write it like you like it the first time.
Yeah. You go.
I've seen some of his bills, you know, Henry doesn't that.
Mark, can I ask you a favor before you go?
Sure.
Whenever y'all have a chiefs meeting, or if y'all have just a big county meeting, y'all just kind of think about where the department wants to be, or where the whole organization wants to be, looking at your crystal balls 30 years, 40 years, 50 years out. And just think about, and all these issues we discussed here tonight, put all of y'all's heads together and see where's the best place for us to be. And, you know, just y'all think about it together. Like I said, we're not fixing to take any action here tonight.
Right.
This is not a burning issue, but if we can come up with a solution that is good today and good 50 years from now, that's the kind of solutions I like.
Yeah.
So if y'all, you know, to talk about it and come back to us, or, you know, visit with us individually or whatever.
You ain't got to run off now, you're welcome to stay the
I'm
next
sorry,
3
that'll
hours.
be too much fun for me.
Thank you again, sir.
Thank y'all.
All right, following on in the chairman's report, the Caterpillar rubber tire loader, was delivered Friday. And Alan M. has already worked it, I think, and, pretty proud of that purchase. And this is the one that we traded the 2 old pieces of equipment for. One thing that has came up, since the last time we met, and that is a rate structure, with commercial bank. So probably back in September, October, November, some bank accounts will change from First Citizens over to the commercial bank. And you should have in front of you, I hope, this page. Yes. And you will see the rates that you were locked in at the time. And then you'll see the new rates effective 2021. We did speak about this. There's several reasons for this rate change, and I think the way the original move went, commercial bank was under the impression that only X dollars would be supported at those rate numbers, and they've exceeded that twofold. And they just honestly can't afford to pay that high rate that they promised originally. Now, I'm not saying that they're backing out, but I guess maybe a little bit. We said one thing as far as the amount we deposit twice that much. So therefore they, like we received, what, $85,000? Rhonda, is that correct, or was that Kathy that was telling me that? Yeah, just in earnings off of interest. So, we did, before this came to my attention, I did check the market through a couple of other local banks, and they wasn't even nowhere near what the new rate is. I think they were less than a quarter point across the board, which even the new rates are higher than that. So, just so, this is just an update on how that is, or how it went down. Again, this was a little bit prior to me. Any questions on that one? I'll try to answer them. If not, please contact David Hancock. He said he would be more than happy to explain anything else. He tried to bring me up to speed on it too, so. All right. Road department. So everyone knows that we've been trying to hire CDL positions for our road department. Alan, I'm gonna let you explain this one, but at what we have offered, we're not gonna be able to fill these positions.
Our current bring-in rate is $10.03 for equipment operator, which is coming right off. If you have your CDL A's or CDL B's, you get an extra 75 cents. So that's starting a guy off at $10.78. You have your Class A's, you get $1.25. You're starting them out at $11.28. So that's the issue we're having. We still got 2 vacant positions. Applicants not coming in right now and everything else. We got this much we wanna do. We got this, not even current, can't even fill the current position we have and everything else. So if you look at your sheet, that's just some of the numbers we have, but I will meet with several of y'all and get y'all's opinion on that too, before the end of the month and everything else. Me and Todd were talking Friday and everything else, we threw some numbers out there. I mean, he's talked to several asphalt companies and stuff like that. Anybody hauling trucks, minimum 16, minimum. Most of the time it's around $20 an hour for CDLA drivers and stuff like that and everything else. So we gotta make a happy medium in between somewhere, trying to, I know it's an ongoing, Todd wants to make this an ongoing process over a 3-year time, but somewhere that fits where our current people are, that's what I would like to go over that with several of y'all during the month and everything else. To see y'all's opinion on it and see how y'all feel on that and everything else.
So what I'd like to do, and we did, and this is a hard decision here because of the pay structure we're already at with other employees. If we offer up a new position, let's just say we use the number of $16 an hour, we will surpass 8 or 9 employees that's been here 10 or 12 years already. Now granted, there is a qualification in that being CDLs. At $16 an hour, you would be encroaching on the ones that we do have CDLs now on what they make, and they've been here 20 years and 25 years. And they're at $18 or $19 an hour. So we're at a bridge that, do we fill the positions we got with a higher rate? How to do it, and at what amount? So this is something that hopefully over the next 2 weeks that everybody can reach out and Alan give thoughts. He said he would meet with y'all individually. He had no problem with that, and see if we can't come to a number that's fair across the board. But as of right now, I'll be honest with you guys, every one of you and ladies, we have 15 boots on the ground total, roughly.
There's 20 positions counting myself, Derek, Sean, and Irene. So, and we're missing 2, so that's actually be down to 14.
And I would be lying to tell you that if we ain't those 2 plus 3 more short at the road department to get the amount of work that this board would like to achieve, myself and even Alan and we talked about that T-Splosh the other day, and that's gonna be something I would get behind 100% and try to promote, because we actually spoke about Elbert County and what they were able to do with their T-Splosh. The first year they passed it, they caught their road projects up quickly. Well, we're always gonna be behind if we're gonna change our current game. So anyway, with that said, filling these 2 positions, work it out as far as the pay structure goes, but don't be surprised by end of summer, we're not looking to add a couple more positions.
Just one comment, I talked to, visited with Derek Horn today, and he and I had a conversation. It sounded like the best I could gather, the direction you think y'all want to go sounded pretty encouraging, sounded like it made a good bit of sense. From a big picture standpoint, as we look at these things in the future, and I mentioned on a couple of issues, I think it on the sheriff's department, it helped my thought process if, when we're looking at the budget items for these, if we can see what the rate of pay is on employees at that time.
Okay, yeah, I had that in the office today.
Yeah, I got all that, and when I talked to you, we got
When
that,
we were
look at
going
all
over
that.
budget stuff, we looked at a dollar increase figure, but we didn't have the information in front of us. Here's what our rate for pay is for employees right now.
Sure.
So we could have may been able to make a difference then, or at least we would have had more information to consider making that difference then. If we had it.
I'll tell you how I was looking at it at the time, and I'm basing this off of what Mr. Adams said, was he felt like the way we went about it was correct, and then whatever the contingency fund balance was at the end, then we could go back and make our changes based off that amount. I will tell y'all, there's about 176,000, yeah, 176,000 in contingency based off of 3%, that didn't get allocated because of the lump sum allocations. So that was the way I was looking at it, but it's good, we're gonna be all right. We just gotta put our heads together and see what we're gonna come up with. Road department employee was assaulted last Thursday, on Transco Road while installing a driveway pipe. I did ask for an incident report, just for the record, in case anything come up about it. It was completed by the Madison County Sheriff's Office. The road department employee did not press charges, but I wanna go on record stating that our assault on our employees will not be tolerated at all. If this employee is a lot kinder than I am, because I would have filed charges right then. I don't know who this individual was, I was not told this information. He's a nice guy. From my understanding, Alan, you can give it better, but the guy dove through the passenger
Yes.
window of the truck.
my guy was going down the road, the dog crossed in front of him, he swerved to miss the dog. He didn't know if he hit the dog or not. So he got to the driveway, which was a couple 100 yards down the road. He was backing up to dump the gravel. By the time he realized the car done stopped, almost hit the front end of our truck, that guy had got out of his vehicle and through of our vehicle through the passenger door going after our driver. Which at that time he was exiting the vehicle. The guy continued following him out and chased him around the yard a couple times with one of my other guys, and then an eyewitness that was actually on scene with the guy's son that we were putting the driveway in for, witnessed the whole thing and everything. And it was not pretty. I know I think he got hit twice on the back and everything else, but it was not a very good incident at all. I mean, very scary for our guys, and he was shook up definitely all day. There's no, very bad.
So, I have instructed them, as in every department head, if you are a county employee in any way, and you get struck, or even threatened to be struck, to contact the deputy right then. If you are struck, I want charges pressed. We will protect our employees, period.
And if I could just follow up on that, Mr. Chairman, this whole business of it being the victim's right to press charges or not is television stuff. The law enforcement always has the discretion to make an arrest, and the district attorney always has the discretion to pursue or not pursue the prosecution. So, if it's the county's position, the chairman's position, that arrest should occur in those situations, I would think it's as simple as letting the sheriff know that.
I understand. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. We've been dealing with this a lot lately, not necessarily the assault, but the verbal assault. We're gonna get to that in just a minute. And keep in mind what he said, the dog ran out in front of him. Madison County has a leash law. Now, I understand if the guy would have hit the dog, whether he did or whether he didn't, is no reason to attack another human being when your dog and you as the owner were the one negligent. I'm furious about this. That being said,
Following up on that, just for clarity, I mean, if that's, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, I mean, it should be the policy, in my opinion, that we need to let the sheriff's office know, and that way it removes the question from the deputy, or from the employee. I mean, we removed that from that scenario, and that's therefore, they're not even put in a position that, you know, they're supervised or whatnot, can just tell them, so that's not your call. You know,
I agree.
that's,
Thank you, Derek. I got so much up here. Old business, considering amended the 2021 Elmade Road project list. All right, we have to go out to bid for this, so we'll need a vote to go out to bid on this. Before y'all have a list of roads. Every road that was on the previous list, we rode. Every road on this current list, we have ridden. You see the word triple surface. Let me clarify this first. So originally, what you had looked at in 2020, you had a lot of roads on here that said triple surface. Triple surface is no longer available in our area.
I did get a bid back today, or a quote back today from Stratton & Sons. They can do it, but it depends on if it's a new surface that's going on or what we already have. That's the current issue we're having, is we're trying to re-triple, instead of putting fresh base down or whatever else, and on top of that, that's what this price is going to quote. But putting asphalt down on our existing roads, we don't have to do much work to that, so there's kind of a, but there is somebody that we did not know about till this afternoon. Stratton & Sons did get back with me, they said they still do triple surface roads, so.
Yeah, we thought we were under the impression the closest one as of when this list came out, was in Cochran.
Yes, that's what it
It's
is.
something to do with the DOT specs changed, and it made it all complicated. Basically, everybody went out of business because they couldn't afford to do it. They just went straight asphalt, no more triple surface. But it's a special request now to get it, so you can imagine the price. So that's why you see the word triple surface versus resurface. I'll start off with Timberland Drive. You see amend to 2022 LMAG project, road department to prep road this year and then go out for bid in 2022. So Timberland Drive was on the 2021 list. It is still probably the most important road on here based on the shape that road's in. But in order to do this road, it's gonna require a lot of man hours besides paving. In other words, the right-of-ways have to be cut back, fixed, new ditches have to be pulled. That's just what caused this road to be in such bad shape. So myself and Alan both have agreed that it'll take the rest of this year just to get that road ready to pave. But we do not deny the fact that it don't need to be done immediately. But we don't wanna do something twice, so we're gonna fix it right the first time. Kellogg Drive, West Kellogg Drive, all three of these so far, well, Swamp Guinea, Booger Hill Road, Bishop Carey. It said revisited in 2022. Again, not saying the road does not need it. We have other roads that's way worse that need it sooner. So we would like to revisit that in 2022 also. And we're just trying to spend the money as wisely as possible and get as much coverage as possible, but some of the roads did not require as much attention as others. Now, it depends on who you ask on that, but this is coming from the people that does this. This is in their opinion. Old Ginn Road, Pine Valley Farm Road, Forest Lane. These were all on the original list. The only thing on this list that has changed is Ingram Road was added, because I don't think anybody in the county knew how bad that road was until we went down. And it's awful. I mean, it is completely awful, so that road had to be added.
Adams Clark was added.
Yeah, Adams Park, I thought it was on there originally.
It was on there, but it was right at the cutoff point and everything else. I think it was between 9 and 10 on the original list.
So, and this is me, Derek, Allen, several other people going down these roads to verify that these are the most important ones out of the group that was originally posted. And I thought, so, with that being said, I will need, any question on any of these roads? How about that before we go any further? All right, hearing none. So I'll ask for a motion to go out to bid on the roads you see before you.
I'll make a motion that we utilize this revised list for the 2021 LMIG projects as presented by the road department.
Second motion.
I have a first by Derek Doster, a second by Terry Chandler. Denny,
Yes.
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 motion carries. And for the record, Brian Kirk's not here, he's not feeling well tonight, coming off his surgery. He said he is good from the surgery, but they have him on some antibiotics. This makes him very sleepy. He couldn't attend even by phone. He said he was afraid he'd fall asleep, just so y'all know. But he is doing well, and I want to keep y'all up to date on that for the ones that don't know. All right?
Do you happen to know how many miles of road we've got here? Just a question.
I'm gonna roughly say 10-ish, around 10-ish, or maybe a little over,
10 miles?
10 miles.
Yeah, that's about right.
Could be a shade over. Could be 11 or 12. I don't have those linked
We
right
had a
now.
whole bunch of .6s and .8s.
No, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that, I was just curious.
I can actually, I got a book like that, I can figure it out for you tomorrow and jot them down and total them up, but I don't know. New business. Just behind this one, confused here. New business. To discuss approving the 2021 beer and wine license for Dogsboro LLC. I think the young lady's here to present this. You wanna give us some input on this one?
Yes, my name is Melanie Dunn, by the way, and, I have a lease agreement and some tax returns so that, you guys want to see this. Do have it here. It is pretty thick, so I did not make copies for everyone. But there is a lease agreement and tax returns
Do
for.
you have at least one copy that we can
Yes,
have?
yes.
If you don't mind, go ahead and give that to Mike. He has the most background in this particular topic than any of us.
Yes, sir.
So, is there any questions for the young lady presenting it tonight? I know we will have to all go through that stack before we make a vote. I do understand that, and I'll need you to go through it to make sure, because of the previous stuff, to make sure everything's, I's is dotted and T's is crossed accordingly.
If I can ask a question.
Sure.
So the application was filed on behalf of an individual, not a corporation. So are you an attorney representing the individual, or?
No, it was, actually filed for, Johnny Betts and Dogsboro LLC.
Okay, so who owns Dogsboro LLC?
Johnny Betts does.
Okay, and I'm sorry, just what's your relationship?
I'm the manager there. Johnny would have been here tonight, but he's got some medical issues and it makes him very uncomfortable to do anything basically at the moment.
Okay, sure, I'm just trying to get the lay of the land.
I
So would you
apologize.
be the manager of this store?
Yes.
Okay.
Was he the last applicant who filled out?
Yes, ma'am.
How long has it been since you all had
3 years.
3 years?
Since the last time they requested this? or last time
Since they had a license?
Oh, okay. I've read a lot of the correspondence throughout the years, because I think this has been sort of ongoing,
Mhm.
different areas, but I think this time they got it together. But I would say, you're gonna be the one making this, so if Mike has any questions, he can contact you directly?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Great, thank you.
That'll best serve us, and that way, in case we have a question, he'll have the answer, can contact you directly, so we're all on the same page.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And likewise, Mr. Chairman, if I can invite commissioners, if they have questions, let me, you can either ask them directly, Ms. Dunn, or route them through me, whatever you want to do.
I just don't wanna be redundant if you already have them, because I know you're gonna go through that stack pretty good, because you have the most knowledge of anybody at the table.
Yes, I've got this so I can just compare to past years, that's right.
All right.
When is your intent to vote on this?
The 29th,
Next week?
March 29th.
Yeah, 29th will be the voting meeting, and that is if all matters are met, if there's no questions on it, and everything goes well between Mike and yourself, and we're able to make a legitimate vote, that'll happen on the 29th.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any more questions for the young lady presenting?
Before I say it wrong, let me get it. Does Dogsboro LLC, are they the current owner of the property?
No, sir.
They hold the lease, correct?
That is correct.
Who's the owner of the property?
Hull Jackson Properties.
It might help if I can do it, or Rhonda could do it, send y'all the correspondence that the chairman was referring to, that would sort of get you up to date of past years on this.
All right.
The licenses aren't transferable though.
That is correct. Yeah, that's correct. So this owner, this tenant, this business operator hasn't had a beer and wine license for at least 3 years. So this comes in as a new application, not a transfer.
New application to the individual and the LLC,
Yes, sir.
completely separate from the facility owner. So if something happens, and if the applicant pulls out or no longer operates the business, then it does not automatically stay with the building.
That is correct, that's correct, it's to the owner, to the operator. So, I mean, just to summarize, the question in the past has been whether this operator is still acting under the direction and control of the owner of that building, Hull Jackson Properties, which is owned, and it is in turn owned by an individual who is not qualified to hold a beer and wine license.
At, the base now, and I'm just gonna reference some, because we had 7 of them in Danielsville that sold beer and wine. And the majority of the people that apply for that application to sell the beer and wine is not the actual owner of
Right.
the physical structure and or the land.
Yeah,
They're
that's not a
only
problem.
lessees.
Okay, so
And every
that's,
lessee,
this is not an exception to a rule then.
That's correct, yeah, that's not a problem, what the chairman just said. But again, what's unique about this one is establishing whether the operator that's applying for the license is really separate from the owner of the property, or whether this is just a straw man acting on behalf of the property owner who himself could not get a beer and wine license.
And you can see the lease and the tax returns here to prove that that is not the case.
Exactly, yeah, some of this is, I think we may have had leases in the past, I don't think we ever had tax
I think it was
returns,
very
so-
political for the past 3 years, and a lot of people were hurt, so there was not a license issued. That's my opinion.
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, and it's, beer and wine license is a tough game to begin with. This has to be vetted through the sheriff's department also.
Right.
And I don't know if it's different from the restaurant industry, but the restaurant, and I think every employee, for instance, night shift also has to be vetted to sell. It's not just the owner, correct? Mike?
Well, the application, I think, has to include the names of each
Of all
person who,
employees.
and then they have to have criminal background checks of each person who could sell beer and wine on those premises, that's right.
That's in Danielsville though, not Madison County as a whole, is that
No, that's
correct?
state law.
Yeah, I think that's,
That's
yeah, I
state
think that
law.
would apply here as well.
In restaurants or in,
Both.
No, well, yeah, maybe,
So-
but that's right, but.
So in other words, like,
every employee of Ingalls has to have a background check in order to sell beer and wine?
you have to be of age to be able to run a cashier. And I wanna say you have to be vetted to make sure that you're not a convicted felon or something like that, because you're not allowed to sell
We
beer.
don't,
That's not the case.
I've seen in years past.
in years past, we did.
So when did that change? The ordinance hasn't changed?
I'd have to, I couldn't tell you from memory, but
Huh, that's interesting.
And the only reason I know this is because I'm just gonna use one, I'm not picking anybody out, but just say the one on the corner down here is a gas station. Every time they hire a new employee, if she's gonna be there by herself, she has to have a background check to make sure she can sell that beer and wine.
Right, and that could be the distinction. Somebody on the premises has to
Somebody on
have that
premises.
vetting. That's right.
And that may be how Ingalls gets away, I don't know. We
So
just-
Yeah.
do I need to have a background check myself done as well?
I don't know, this will be a process.
I'm
we
happy
can look
to,
into.
I'm just asking, do I need to? Because in the application, it does not say that.
Yeah, I'm just going by what I think.
Yeah, and the
state
application
law
may not have everything that's actually in the beer and wine ordinance, which you can see.
I did read the beer and wine
Did read that?
ordinance as
Okay.
well.
What did Michael tell you at the sheriff's office?
Only the owner of the business.
Oh, really? Okay. So I don't know, we'll check into it. It may
We'll
just be,
look at it.
it may be, I may be misled, but I wanna say that that's.
Just quickly, in case that is the case, because I don't want it to go on and on and on again.
Oh, no,
if I
we'll
need
know
it.
right away. Yeah, It won't be a hiccup for the 29th. We'll figure that
Okay.
out
Right,
right before
yeah.
that.
I
I
appreciate that.
promise you.
Thank you.
When Mr. Betts applied for it before, I can't remember, was he affiliated with Dogsboro LLC prior?
Yes,
as well?
ma'am. He's the only owner of Dogsboro LLC and has always been the only owner of Dogsboro LLC. And if you need articles of incorporation and meeting notes, I can give you that as well for Dogsboro LLC.
Sometime between now and the 29th, give us all a shout.
Oh, yeah, I
Make
will.
sure.
I'm sorry, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
making myself notes to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was giving Teresa time to keep coming. No, you're good.
You can carry on.
Any more questions or comments to the young lady or for us? All right, moving on. Discuss moving code enforcement position under the Board of Commissioners. And I see, Mr. Roach is here tonight. Stand up and say hello, who you are.
Hey, everybody, my name's Christopher Roach. I'm currently joint enrolled with the state and federal departments of agriculture and regulation and code enforcement particularly, and soil conservation, water and riverways, radiological and biological components that affect agriculture on behalf of the Department of Homeland Security, GBI, and FBI.
Cool, thank you for the introduction, sir.
Chicken pits there.
Yeah. And he dabbles in the farming industry just a little bit.
All that been on a business card?
It's more of a sheet of paper we just hand out, a smiley face at the bottom, make you feel happy when you get
Who actually pays you?
I'm paid directly through the state. I have the joint enrolled position because of being an APHIS officer as indemnity reporter for USDA, and then with markets, grain, and reports being over all livestock reports in the state of Georgia, GDA receives funds that trickle out. They are minuscule. And then when GEMA's activated, and I'm your engineer on the SART team, the Special Agriculture Response Team, we're then paid through emergency action.
But you're an employee of Georgia Department of Ag.
Right now.
So, the reason I just seen him here and I want to introduce himself, he has applied for the code enforcement position, which currently is under the sheriff's office. And I know several of you know that, the sheriff would like for that code enforcement position to come back under this building, the Board of Commissioners. Now, with that being said, it has been a huge amount of topic back and forth. So, give a little bit of brief history. Animal control. All right. Animal control, when it was created by Madison County, they throwed animal control under code enforcement. Animal control has nothing to do with code enforcement, that's just where they put it at the time. Myself, I spoke with Michael and Jeff both and told them that I really was not interested in animal control coming back in this building. It felt better, animal control officer felt better than over there with the other officers. They have the facilities to retain it, they're more into the dog thing, that this particular job would fall under planning and zoning. In other words, he would work, and he's saying you, but
You're good,
Chris,
Earl.
because he's the one that's applied for it, so I guess Chris, he's been offered a position by the sheriff's office anyway, let me go ahead and state that, that's the reason I keep referring to that. He would work directly in the planning and zone office with Eddie Pritchett and with David Patton. We also are in the early stages, I would say, of revamping the nuisance and abatement order. We have several copies from surrounding agencies. Teresa, you may know best from reading it, that the one we have now is not so good. The reason I'm looking to make that split between code enforcement and animal control is, because as of right now, the code enforcement officer spends 80% of his time on animal control. I spoke with the previous animal control officer and code enforcement at one time, Jack Huff, and he says if you leave this as a dual role, you will never enforce your code enforcement, because there is no time to do so. He said, speaking off of 15 years, I think, that it should have always been separated, but it just wasn't. Judge Patton and Mr. Pritchett both agreed this was a good move for us to bring this position back into this building and designate this role into the planning and zoning department. Funding, how are we gonna pay for this? I have spoke with Kathy, finance director. The money is covered, and the contingency money that was left over from the year, it will continue to carry there. Michael has agreed to retain the two positions he has now for animal control, because it's a two-man job, and he would fulfill them out of his budget. He is going to also retain the two officers he has doing animal control at this time, in the same roles that they are currently in. So with that being said, it's just like walking in, creating a position, and there's your new guy. That's what we're doing, or we're looking at. Any questions on this particular topic that I can try to answer for you?
Do you have a document, or do we have plans for a document as a specific definition of what the role of
Job
the
description.
is gonna be?
Yes, sir.
What that role, who's gonna answer to, all that?
That's correct. He actually will answer directly to this board. The only reason I say it falls under planning and zoning is because that was what was recommended, because they get most of the calls on the new builds and the old builds, and the neighbors, they all go to them. Most of our, I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of people call here too about people having dilapidated property, and I'll be honest with you, some of the stuff I've seen lately that's just came about, it wasn't there a year ago, we are getting overrun with the trash dump. We have more and more. I went and looked at one up there in your area the other day that, as of right now, we don't have anything in writing we can do about it, and it is a shame. It is a shame. It's in a subdivision, and if there's not 20 stoves and 35 mattresses in the backyard in the middle of a subdivision, they ain't one. It's awful, and we can't enforce it. That's why the nuisance and abatement order is coming about. That the nuisance and abatement order is coming as a request from Michael Moore directly. He says that they can't enforce it until we get it fixed.
He's right.
He is correct. Chime in, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, we
Well,
tried the bare bones one in, 2018, and just, kind of what the Georgia,
that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I drafted one that was sort of bare bones of just what has to be in
Right.
the local part.
Yeah,
I think the chairman shared, Danielsville's ordinance, which is basically, it has all the same bare bones, and then it has some things, has additional things that you don't have to put in your ordinance. A lot of them apply anyway, they're just state law, and you don't have to repeat them. Yeah, but I don't think the drafting has been the obstacle in the past.
Right,
It's been
right.
figuring out what the chairman's talking about, how
Yeah,
you enforce it, so, I was just gonna throw in on the job description. Sounds like I don't think we've ever had, or probably ever should have, any employee reporting to the board, because the board is the legislative body. The top of the report is usually to the chairman, so you'd be setting up code enforcement as its own department, and its department head reports directly to the chairman.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, and to clarify, when I say that we're looking at restructuring how the nuisance and abatement order is, I want to make it real clear so nobody gets confused. This is not a way to put people out of their homes. That's not what we're looking to do. We're not going inside. This is a step-by-step process that starts basically with solid waste. And that solid waste was exactly what Michael Moore and previous Jack Huff and everybody, that was their biggest problem. This was nothing to get anybody kicked out. This was just to get people to take care of their own property and at least have respect for their neighbors. that lives maybe on both sides. So, sort of two folds there, what I'm talking about, a nuisance abatement order and then a code enforcement position, but they do run hand in hand, and I was trying to give you a brief description of how, the only true way that I know personally, and coming from the other 3 or 4 deciding factors prior to the board's decision, this is they think's the best move also. I did speak with Eddie Pritchett today, I've also spoke with Judge Patton today, and they think this is a wonderful idea, and they hope the board moves on this.
And from a budget standpoint, you're talking about, we will amend the sheriff's budget to pull that money back.
No, his budget will stay the same because he's retaining his same 2 officers.
So this is a full creation of a new
Full creation
position
of 1 position, yes, sir.
plus budget.
And like I said, I'll sit down with Kathy, and please feel free to contact Kathy. I wanted to make sure that this was not gonna put us in any bad light financially, and she said absolutely not. This is something that, and honestly, not to say it badly, but, if done correctly, it's sort of a self-paid position, and it's not really how you wanna look at it, I know that. But if people don't do what they're supposed to do, you know, you don't wanna say the police department or the sheriff's office is a self-funded thing either, because it's not. But it does generate its own revenue from people not doing the right thing. But, again,
Much needed.
yeah, it is, from what I'm being told, yes ma'am, and from what I drive around and see, and I know Denny, first thing you ask me when I sit down at the table, he's like, well, what do we have about this? Because, you know, you're getting calls on them too. I would honestly say that probably 50% of the phone calls I get on a daily basis, and I get a bunch of them, is, what can you do about this burnt-out mobile home that nobody lives in?
No, I can say that everybody that lived on Martin Griffith Road, except one person, has called me about it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you run in against, is a burnout home. You know, again, that's not kicking anybody out of a home, but we have to do something with it from a safety standpoint. You know, if kids trespass and they get hurt, liabilities, insurance claims, we don't want anybody hurt, so therefore we have to have an officer to go out and say, okay, you're gonna have to do something about this dilapidated home that's fell in, that nobody lives in anymore, that's screwed up in weeds, you know, or 40 cars on blocks, you know. Again, I've got friends that's collective, they have 20 or 30 cars. I'm not picking on these guys, that's not solid waste, that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I have another point that might back you up on this, because I covered Madison County already. From the soil and water table end of it, a lot of the dilapidated homes, backyard trash that is improperly stored or either just allowed to rot, has materials that do get into the water table that contaminate it. And I deal with the EPA and EPD on a regular basis from northeast Georgia, just not because of poultry and manure and CAFOs, but also where does it come from? Are they trying to back it up on a compliant farmer? Or is it somebody who tried to burn down an old house for insurance money? Not gonna mention any names, but a good case. They had rosin chrism poles. They actually had old arsenic stored underneath the building from a generation before they hadn't had any idea of. It seeped into the water table, and there's ongoing cases now because of wells being contaminated with arsenic. So by jumping ahead of that game, you may prevent further discrepancies throughout the county.
So you're gonna distribute some more information to us regarding this
Yeah.
tax thing about it on the home.
That's right, that's correct. So, you'll have everything this week in an email, that shows your final cost, to run this across the board. I'll include, everything that I know of that it can cost. And I'm getting a lot of my information from, Michael did agree to have the current code enforcement officer show the new one locations and bring them up to speed, and they didn't care about the time frame on that, how long it took. We've also have Jack Huff that said that he also would come back on board to try to get this all in good working order.
Mike, when could we have an ordinance prepared for our review
Oh,
so that we've got some meat on these bones when we put this young, put someone to work doing that.
Well, we have one ready to go, like Teresa said, drafted 2 years ago. We can, I think Todd sent out the Danielsville version as well that has a lot more stuff in it if you wanna add more things. But we could have an ordinance that's enforceable. We don't have 2 readings. I mean, you could pass that at any regular meeting you want to, and we have something ready to go.
So why don't, go ahead and forward everybody a copy of the current one you have,
Okay.
and then go ahead and pencil in things that you may see that need to be added or deleted, and we'll narrow it all the way down to a finished product and move forward. That sounds good. I know there's a lot of people that would make happy.
Is this enforcement outside of all the cities?
Yes, sir.
Or is it,
Yes, sir.
none of it includes any cities?
The only time it would be inside the cities, most of the cities do it themselves. Danielsville does it themselves, Comer does it themselves. I don't know that the smaller cities like Hull,
That's fine.
Arlington or something like that, actually do it, but it would be something that we could help them with.
Similar like we do in law enforcement.
That's right, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we have intergovernmental agreements with
That's
several
correct.
cities to do that.
Well, you do now with dog catching. Animal
Exactly.
control right now is intergovernmental agreement with every city. So, yeah, it could be something that's very broad. I'll be honest with you, I'm sort of excited about that particular vote to get that moving, just because I know the need is so dire.
One cost, if I could throw in, that you probably cannot estimate ahead of time is when you have these dilapidated buildings and you go through the process and you just cannot get the owner to comply, the final court order you get is that you can demolish it yourself and make it safe. It becomes a lien on the property at that point. So you have a lien, you can collect those costs back. Of course, that's a process, and you may have some experience with that, of trying to collect on those liens. But, I mean, how often it has to go that far and what it costs when you do is something you may not know until you start doing it.
That's correct. So, and we'll get into that, something similar to that here in a minute when we'll go back to the road department deal. But yes, there is cost, that can't be foreseen at this time, and that is coming from, if we did have that particular home, let's just say that one that we're referring to, the owner gets arrested for other things, and then there's a mess sitting there. But yet we feel like because of the other property owners around them with the kids, that somebody might get hurt, and we have to take it upon ourselves to clean that up for them. Then we would have to run a tally, lien the property. You're never gonna get your money back until the property sells. The only good part is, other than the disposal fee, our workers can do it 9 times out of 10. So therefore, you do have a reduction in cost. Like with the city of Danielsville with the home behind BB&T, we had to tear that thing completely down, so we had to pay a contractor, because we didn't have the equipment to do it with, and it was about $20,000 to bring it to straight dirt. But it was money well spent, because look at it now. It was adjoining a church that had a whole playground full of kids. And it was bad, but it turns out the property sold, they paid the lien, they got the property, everybody's happy. So, it is a process, don't get me wrong. Any other questions on that from anyone? All right, discuss discontinuing large animal burial services. I'm glad you're still here, Madison, I saw you, sorry. So, I'll give y'all some numbers, man, and I know this is a heated topic, don't get me wrong, it's been kicked around for 20 years probably, I know the past 10. And I think probably because of voting purposes, people wouldn't really tackle it. I'm gonna give you some numbers, guys. Y'all may have a copy of it in front of you. In 2020, we buried 199 cows or horses. It's 200. 64 deer. That was in 2020. In 2020, as of February 24, we've buried 53 farm animals and 9 deer. Now, just for the record, I got Alan here for this reason. How many people does it take to bury a horse or a cow?
We like to send two, most of the time.
I like to send two. Time frame on burying that animal.
From leaving the shop to get back, I would say average of, depending on how far you got to go, could be an hour and a half to 2 hours easily.
Put a dollar figure on them 2 hours, please, sir.
It'd be on, I could not tell you that. Depends on who goes, equipment, you have a truck, trailer, tractor, plus 2 people, plus the 2 hours.
So this
But that's taken away from whatever they're normally doing, wanting, what we have lined up for them to do. When a call comes in at 10 o'clock in the morning, that's one thing we try to do, get it done that day and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
That's one that we have done.
In July, if you waited a day.
Right.
It'd be rough in July. So, my math was telling me that we got about $200 total in an animal burial. By the time we factor in the salary of the guy, the insurance to workman's comp, and social security and everything else, then we got diesel fuel, and just plain old time. Not including the time we lose if he was on the paving crew that day, or the pothole crew that day, that just got shut down. Now, I know 53 sounds like a small amount. But look at the dates on these things. We've had some that we done 6 in one day. Well, matter of fact, it was 3 weeks ago, we done 6 3 different times, wasn't it?
I think so.
All right, February 8th, we done 3, February 9th was 4, February 10th was 3, February 11th was 4, 5. So in other words, we lose 2 guys all day. All day. For every 4 calls, we have 2 guys that we can't use, and we already short-staffed. And I'm by no means trying to be empathetic with the farmers also. We just can't afford to do it. We don't have the people. I don't have the people, I don't have the time. And so I'm asking, and I know it's not a popular vote for anybody to this table, but we also have people in the county that does this service. Larry Minish. I'm just picking one, I'm not using that, Zach, I don't want it to sound that I'm actually supporting his business here. I'm just using him, but he has a machine. Most anybody with an excavator has a machine. Most anybody with a backhoe has a machine. Today Alan called just to see what the going rate was. Tell us those numbers.
He said if fuel prices stay roughly the same and everything else, he can call me back just to reiterate about that. He said the fuel costs keep going up, I might go up a little bit just to cover fuel costs. But he said he's around the Isla area. He said within 5-7 miles of his house and everything else. He said it'd be 125. This is for cows and horses really. If it's outside that area, it'd be around 150. He said he does anywhere from dogs, pigs. I mean, he does from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. But he says it does not cost that much if he's helping somebody out bury a pet dog that they've had for 25 years or whatever else. It's not gonna cost him that much. He's just really trying to cover his expenses and stuff like that, so. Cause that way, we just wanted an idea of what it would actually cost and everything.
Yeah, and that's all we were doing, we were just trying to get this. So, again, when I say discontinue large animal burial services, it's a need that has to be done by somebody. And this will go in line with what you'll see in just a minute with the driveway pipes and the gravel. It is a need, but it's a need that we don't need to be in the business in. If I had more people, if we could afford more road department guys, and we can sort of designate a guy, 2 guys, 2 days a week or 3 days a week, it'd be different. But we don't have that luxury. We're running on a shoestring staff. I'll give you how shoestring it is. Me and Alan went Friday. Friday's my riding day. And we started on Moon's Guest Road. And we went from Moon's Guest all the way to Madison on nothing but, basically one dirt road. We get off of it, go up a few hundred yards, get on the road, and almost made a straight line from Moon's Guest, the other end of Moon's Guest, on nothing but a dirt road. It's got, every one of them's gotta be fixed. So if I just do those 4 dirt roads, I'm 3 months into it. With those 5 guys. The motor grader guy, the dump truck guy, the grade all guy, the lemon crew guy. I ain't got enough people to continue this service, along with the other 3. I'm not just picking out this one. So,
Todd, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
And a comment.
Sure.
You say you send two people. I'm curious, why is it two?
Just for safety wise and everything else. I mean, you got unloading unloading the backhoe, trailer wise and everything else, just in case something happens. That's why I like to, sometimes it don't happen. We don't have two people to go out. But if we have the availability, I'd like to send two people just so too many things can happen, loading and unloading equipment and stuff like that.
I understand, I'm not questioning the procedures, because
Right.
I've seen a couple times where there's two guys, and one would drive off to the farm in the pasture, the other guy gets in the truck.
Right.
But from my perspective, as a very small farmer, I only have about 120 head of cattle. This is a big plus for us. I pay the taxes, and you hear this, and I vote, you hear this cliche all the time.
Yeah.
But as I look at it, I get two things from the county. I get the right-of-way cut down on part of the county road, and I see the sheriff's department. That's what I'm getting for the taxes that
Oh,
you're
no,
getting.
no. All right, so it's a lot deeper. You get the ambulance service.
I pay for that.
You pay for it all in county taxes. But
Well,
I got 90, okay, so let's back it up. And I know Terry probably has better numbers than me because he's more ag related. But you gotta, if you look at a population base of this county, we're offering a service to 25% of the large animal. So this 25% of the population of the county may own
and I
large.
understand it. If there's abuse, then Alan needs to
Well, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that too.
stop. Because
Buried one
those
the other day
people,
with a backhoe sitting right there, but because it's free and it was raining, why would I want to go get on my backhoe and it pouring down rain, it's cold outside.
well, I understand, you've got people like that are gonna punish people like myself.
Exactly, it does, it gets abused, but everything gets abused, but this is one thing that does get abused. I think y'all went to bury one cow 3 times, it wasn't dead yet.
To the same owner, yes, the last 3 times they've been out.
Well, then that needs to be addressed.
I would've sent them a bill at that
Exactly,
point.
exactly. If I lose one a year, that's not good, but still.
This is what I'm catching on the flip side of the ag side, is the property owner says, I'm paying my taxes too, and it's just an argument from the flip side now, trust me, guys, I ain't looking for dagger. But I didn't choose to go in the cow business, but I'm paying for the cow business, but I don't own a cow.
That's one way of looking at it.
And that's what they said, they chose to go into that cow business, or they chose to go into the horse business, or the goat business, whatever it may be. Some people got a kennel, or just have a whole bunch of dogs. But again, that's certain choices that you profit from by selling them, which is good, but feeds your family, don't get me wrong, and it's a good business for Madison County too, because we like having ag in our county, don't get me wrong, but it's still a for-profit business, even though it might not be much profit, but it's still a for-profit business.
Yeah, you
So-
need to eat more beef.
Yeah, well, I'd love to have 100 more. But again, and this correlates back to, the next couple line items. The county don't need to be in the retail business, it's what we're gonna get into in a minute, selling driveway pipes and all that, but we'll get there in a minute. So anyway,
Tom, I got a question.
yes,
You mentioned in the ones you buried deer. Are you gonna include deer into this? Because what happens when the car hits the deer, falls over on the property owner's surely not gonna be responsible for burying that deer on the side of the road.
it runs behind your house and dies, what is it?
Well, that's a little bit different.
How you know? What if they had a heart attack in your backyard and died?
Well, there's gonna be a lot of deer laying on
I'm
the
just
side of the
saying.
road.
I'm just saying. But if it's on a state right of way, the state gets it. If it's on a county right of way, we pick it up and we haul it
Well, yeah.
to this thing.
Yeah.
But no, we're not coming out to your house with a backhoe to bury deer. 9 times out of 10, they pick those up and bring them to a spot.
Well, see, they have, like in our area, they would come sometimes and just bury them in a spot they could find.
No, we cut that out.
Well, that's
We do
good.
not bury anything on county right away anymore. There's too many fiber optics,
Yeah.
gas lines, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's-
So we cut
It
that out.
should be hauled away, that's right. But that's what I wanted to make sure, were you including that? And like you said, it runs behind your house, down whatever, I mean, that's clearly
Now,
on.
that happens a lot. Say in deer season, people shoot a deer on their property, but
Yeah.
it don't run, it runs a quarter mile and dies in somebody's backyard. And then we call, hey, you come get this deer. No, I'm not coming to your backyard to pick that deer up. As a matter of fact, that ain't even in my right of way. And I didn't kill the deer. But I can't keep sending our guys out there because some deer hunter killed a deer that didn't actually die for a quarter mile.
All right, let me ask you, then, here's a question I've heard discussed about cows at this question in the
Sure,
past.
sure. It's open
Deer,
discussion.
deer runs back, dies, whatever. Property owner says, I'm not paying to have that buried, okay? Deer lays there, that sort of becomes a health issue. It's like a farmer that has a cow and it dies on his property and nobody will come and bury it, and he just says, well, I'm gonna let it lay there. And we all know that sort of becomes a health issue, so what do you do in a case like that?
That's no more of a health issue than any cemetery in the world.
Yeah.
No, every concrete casket in the world is full of water, I guarantee you. You ain't gonna go out there and dig one of them up, it ain't full of
But it's
water.
underground.
No, here's the distinction.
Smell wise, yes,
And
smell
what
wise,
Tim
yes, but
said
I
is
think you're talking
exactly
about
right.
contaminants of the
If you
ground.
don't bury your mother if she dies in your house, that's also a health issue. But it's not the county's responsibility to pay for her burial.
That's right.
And it's the same principle for the deer that dies in your backyard. So, what we need to look at here, frankly, I've brought it up before, so it's nothing new to anybody that's been listening. There are certain governmental services that local governments authorized to provide. Burying animals, privately owned animals on private property is not one of them. This has never been an authorized service, as I recall. I'll look at it again. And furthermore, even if it were authorized, doing it for free, that's a gratuity. So, yeah. And I think probably the same applies to your next agenda item.
Waking up.
Just one comment from a non-animal raising person. I don't think it's fair to do something for 25% of the paying public and not do something for the other 75%.
I mean, I understand, but I do see both sides of the coin. But again, if I was a rich county, if I was Banks County and had tons of money running out my eyeballs and I could designate 2 employees because I got plenty of them, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it that much because I got plenty of employees.
Still not fair.
It still wouldn't be fair, you're right, but it'd make it a whole lot more justifiable, I guess you could say. But anyway, and that's just mine. I don't get a vote on this. This may go nowhere, guys. I'm just saying, it's just it's just here, okay?
But
So,
Chris,
Comment?
go ahead.
I can jump on this in a big way. The state of Georgia actually does have a Dead Animal Disposal Act. If it's on your property, it is your responsibility to bury. Doesn't matter if it's wildlife or if it's agriculture stock. Now, at the same time, there's also guidelines to burying. Now, in the state of Georgia, using web soil surveys processing in an approved area. Somebody that does not bury in an approved area, be it a government entity or private, is liable to be indicted by the state and federal government for mishandling of an agriculture or wildlife corpse.
wow.
That's all in the Georgia Disposal Act 11.44.01-08.
We did get into that last year between 2 property owners. We buried it somewhere on the property. They got involved, EPD and everything else. We went back out and dug those animals up and buried them somewhere else.
They have to be in an
Because of
approved area.
this situation.
100 foot from any water source, that includes spring, well, pond, dry weather pond, creek or river source. 100 foot from a property line, right of way, or easement as well. So it's on the property owner, and on that matter, as far as it going for money, also, see, I'm not voted in, so I'll tell you the truth. I'm just messing with you. It's on the property owner. Madison County isn't the largest poultry county in the state. Franklin County is. Madison County has 565 poultry houses in it. They all have a pit, incinerator, or composter. It is on their job to dispose of that animal just the same as a cow is on a cow individual's farm. Chicken house goes down, farmer's got to have a mass death disposal area. Farmers also have to have that, especially counties with planning and zoning, where you come into the fact if it's commercial or agriculture, etc. I deal with this all the time. You get up in Habersham County and bedroom communities, people complain about the deer on the side of the road, on the county road. Whosever property it is on them to bury that carcass.
Wow.
Does not matter. Has to be no deeper than 8 foot, no wider than 4 foot. Unless the cow doesn't fit in it and there's a diamond shape that's approved. But really, y'all are one of the few counties left that still offers this service. Franklin County, Hart, Stevens, Habersham, Rayburn, White, Towns, Hall, Banks, Jackson, All do not have it, neither does Oglethorpe or Elton.
You hang out with parks.
None of this.
For the people on the inside, you'll get that joke.
Okay. No, I deal with regulations every day.
I understand.
Chris, the counties don't do it for a fee then?
2 counties do offer a flat rate for small and large livestock, like or companion animal, I guess. It gets kind of convoluted with regulation when you get into equine and companion animals. So horses are a totally different ballpark on that one. All livestock, though, whether it be a chicken, a working dog is considered livestock, but a chihuahua isn't. There's all sorts of variations on these rules and regulations. But some counties do offer a small animal fee. Banks County, I think, has it. They also have an open land field where instead of burying your animal, you can take it to their landfill. They charge you by the pound, and they have an animal disposal area at their landfill. They're one of the last left that actually does it, so you pay by the pound, whether it be a hamster, something small, you know, or whether you want to haul off a 1,800-pound bull that broke its leg and drowned in a creek. So long as it's moved according to GDOT department, it's got to be covered to the public, that sort of thing, no juice is drinking. So,
Well,
makes me want to get out of business.
Next time I see his hand up, I'm just gonna ask you to call on him.
yeah. What do you think about this next time?
bring it on, bring it on.
I appreciate it. I mean, because I actually didn't know a lot of that.
Franklin County, it was a big hit several years ago. A lot of people had complaints. It wasn't a popular vote like it is now, but what they went to was the state regulations too. Does the county want to take on that responsibility insurance-wise? Because when you do bury a large animal, that property is then can be considered a landfill, just like chicken pits can be. I know Terry can relate to that one. But if it does affect the water, it is the landowner and the person who buried it's responsibility to know where it goes. So both can have charges brought against them.
You got your landowner or land burial permit in your pocket?
No, sir.
All right, so there you go.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm just, for the record, I'm trying, because this list has deer on it, it's,
Yeah.
you know, what he's saying is that private property, one thing, you know, picking up with animals been hit on the side of the road, if it's our right of way, we'll take
Yes,
care of it.
yes.
I'm just,
That we still do anyway. And the state's supposed to do there. Now, I think y'all have told them to drag it out front, put it in the right of way, we'll still come get it. I think you have done
We
that.
have, well, one of the deputies did shoot one in a backyard that got hit and run somebody's backyard. We told them, get it out to the right of way. Since our deputy did shoot it, get it out to the right of way, it was still ours, so I guess.
Yeah. All right.
I've talked to a lot of people about this, it could be not necessarily contentious. I didn't talk to anybody who had just overtly strong feelings about it. I did the comment that Larry made, I probably heard that as much as anything. I pay this much tax, what's wrong with me getting a little bit of service from it? And, you know, and I get that, don't have it, there are some issues, and Mike, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think we sort of have backed into this service by accident. In the event of a catastrophic loss, poultry house, you know, you lose 20,000, 30,000 6-pound broilers, or somebody has a lightning strike, and you get 20 cows that are standing under a tree that died, then you have a real potential of a health issue. So the health department maybe gets involved and says, we got a real potential health hazard there. Then the sheriff then has the authority to say, we got to do something about this, and at that time, then the county can get on somebody's property. Other than that, the county really should not be on private property anyway. So there's a series of events that have to occur. So anyway, I mean, that kind of thing is reality where it started, and then as a service, it just, well, we just kind of, we just bury that animal anyway, because a 1,500-pound dead cow obviously can potentially cause a health problem, but the health department's not involved, and the sheriff's department's not involved. It just kind of, well, you know, we know it's all gonna happen, so it just kind of happens anyway. So you know, and that's my picture of sort of where we have gotten there. Every legitimate producer that I have talked to understands that when they own animals, that there's gonna be some animal mortality, and they have to be responsible for that. And all of us who have done burial before, we're aware, we've had Department of Ag employees come out, and there's a designated property, designated area on the property where the soil has been tested, that we know that it's safe to do it. That's where you're supposed to do it. A concern that I do continue to get from everybody, well, if you do away with this service, or if there's a fee attached to it, then there might be a little bit of incentive to, or lack of incentive for those animals to get disposed of properly, and so you get a higher percentage of them get drug off to the backside, and that nature takes its course, which I don't endorse that. And I think the people that are legitimate producers, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna do their job anyway, but there's a lot of folks out there that are gonna drag them off to the back. And there are other options. Incineration is an option, and we actually use that on our farm. We try to kind of keep a brush pile handy, and that is allowed by the Department of Ag regs, of the state regs. So there are other options. But, there are two sides to this. The way it is currently being done, it is not a cost to the county. In other words, we're not out any money. It does take us away from something else we would be doing. I talked to Derek about this today, just trying to get a feel for where the department is on it, or at least from his perspective, where the department is. When they're full staffed, there was two people that rode around with a dump truck and a backhoe, and they're cleaning out ditches, pushing things out of the way that fell in the road. And if they get a call, then when they get to a stopping point, then they go take care of burial. So it's not an asphalt crew, or it's not the motor graders stopping what they're doing. Right now, being short-handed, that does create a burden to the road department, because we don't have the two people that just designated to go around that are doing that would have a ability to do it. Again, I hadn't run into anybody. Me personally, I'm pretty hard line. Somebody's got animals, it's your responsibility. But the reality is, in a county with a population of 30,000, you got to understand that there's some people that don't feel like I do, and there's also some other people that are going to be negatively impacted by those people that don't feel like I do. So there's a balancing act in there somewhere. I hadn't arrived at it.
Yeah, I understand.
But so anyway, I just encourage everybody, don't look at this just superficially. There's a whole lot.
Sure. I agree. There'd be a whole article wrote on just this topic. I mean, seriously. Now, one thing that brought to my attention that I wasn't aware of was, and this from a larger cattle farmer, said that every one of his was insured.
Yeah.
He said every one of them is insured, and he said, so he said, as far as the cost of a burial, I'm getting paid back. That cow dies, I got insurance on that cow.
It's available. That's not the norm.
But now it's a large cattle guy.
If somebody has a particularly high value animal, if it's a donor cow, if they spent $5,000 or $6,000 on a bull, it would not be particularly unusual for them to be insured. I don't have anything insured.
Yeah.
It's just so that's out there. Like I said, when you're in the business, when you own animals, dogs, parakeets, cattle, elephants, whatever, somebody's gonna die. Life is terminal. You just, again, because we're in a population now of 30,000 or better, there's a lot of folks out there that maybe have animals that hadn't thought about that up front.
I appreciate the discussion.
There's also free services that'll take large animals. We're inside the radius of Madison County. LSA and LSM, they will come and remove a dead carcass that goes to, I call it the dog food factory, byproducts. So long as it's dead within 24, they get to it within 24 hours, they will remove it for you, sometimes giving you not a lot, like 5 cents a pound at times, if it's, super fresh or what have you, but there's services that already do it, and you get a little money out of it.
Again, I didn't know that.
That may be a way. Probably the most adamant statement I had about it is we don't want to give up that. We don't want to give up the knowledge that I can make a call and something will happen today. again, legitimate folks don't want to get animals laying around. So, you know, it may be that we can make an agreement with some of these folks and have them on the bat phone. And so they know that when that call, we have the confidence when that call comes, that it's gonna be taken care of.
Yeah.
So I think there are ways of doing it, hopefully being a win-win on both sides, so maybe we'd be thorough in our investigation of it. Get this
That's what we're looking for, is a win-win, brother.
They could make it to Danielsville inside of 3 hours. From the
Huh.
time that they could be in Danielsville within 3 hours of their location, have it picked up and taken out.
Oh, really?
And it would be a private entity, so the county would not fall into right-of-way trespassing, indemnity, or insurance claim for damaged property, etc.
All right, any more questions on that? If not, I'm gonna move on to number 7. I knew this was gonna be a long one. We tried to get some of it off here, but there's just no way around it. Discontinue the sale of installation of driveway pipes. All right, anybody need any questions or answers on this at all? If it, I may make it shorter, if I just answer them instead of tell you.
This is one of those things to me that has just become this sort of de facto county service. It's something we provide, and I don't think we ought to be averse to providing services as long as we have, if there are options where somebody can purchase those, they purchase the same material at good competitive prices, particularly right here, then I don't think we need to be in business and competing with local businesses.
Perfect answer.
I don't disagree with that. I think one of the comments I made in the past was, seeing some of these driveways go in and some of the pipes and in configurations and stuff, to me, that kind of create a hazardous condition. With just an open-ended pipe right there, and I know it probably tears up mowers and equipment, you know, when we're doing right away, or they get crushed. So I'd encourage, whether it's planning and zoning, to work with Alan's department and come up with some sort of driveway
So that's,
coordination ordinance, or, you know, so it's in our right of way, so we don't need, like,
you
some
want,
people wanna go put a nice big brick something out, but that don't need to be
We think
right.
it need to be sizing the pipe, making sure they're installed.
Ditches are cut right.
so this is what we have discussed, and, Madison County has a minimum 15-inch pipe, minimum. It'll fall back under your building inspection guy. When you pull your permits, it'll be part of the permitting process. It will tell you what size driveway pipe that goes in. Also, and that'd be the minimum requirement. If you're confused about it, then you could call somebody from the road department. They'll come out and take a look at it to say, okay, does this driveway even require a pipe? You know, if it's going that way on both sides, you may not even need one. But one of the things that I talked with a gentleman earlier today about was like, why are y'all quitting putting them in? We don't install septic tanks, we don't need to be putting in driveway pipes. We just don't. That's one more service that we do that makes no sense why we do it. But we do it, now you also notice the word sale on here. There's a reason for that, and Terry explained it best. We have 4 hardware stores in the county. Actually 4 hardware stores and 1 supply company, Midway, and they all sell driveway pipes. State right-of-way is different, driveway pipe. They have to have an end cap on them. State requires it. 29 and 98, it's expensive to put that cap on. And that's the new standards. I wanna say a driveway pipe costs you about $1,500 from these state standards.
Would it be your intent to tie, and I'm asking this, and I know Derek's aware of it, because our work is in Athens, Clark County. If you put a driveway in there, you're gonna get a permit to do it, so that somebody goes out and looks at what was done to ensure that it meets some minimum standards.
Correct.
So, I mean, if we, I guess there's more than one piece to this puzzle, is
Yes.
what I'm saying. And if we're gonna do it, we need to have all the pieces, because I guarantee you know, folks can say, well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it all needs to, am I correct in my
Yes, sir,
thought?
you are correct, and I don't know if that's a requirement in Madison County or not. I know we just enforce the state minimum building codes. We don't have much, if anything, in addition to that, like other counties, like, of course, Clark County do, so. I don't know if we require driveway permits or not.
We
As
actually
of
do
now,
not.
no.
But that
We
will
don't.
fall into the permitting process of the new. That-
Of
that permit will
the
be in-
construction, yeah.
That's right. And it'll be something minimal. I mean, you know, that permit may only be $15, $20 to inspect that driveway pipe because he's coming out there to inspect the footings anyway. It'd be something very minimal. This is not looking at it from a money-making standpoint. This is more looking at it from an adequate standpoint, done correctly.
If we go that route, to me, from a standpoint of a prospective home builder or even the company that's doing it, that's gotta be first on the list.
It's very one.
I mean, it's gotta be first. What we do not want to do is have people putting in pipes and having to go out there and tell me that big is.
That's right. It is, it's absolutely the
And
first.
it would not, I would think it'd be appropriate that somebody at the road department, building inspector, road department sizes everyone. I don't think it needs to be a minimum. I think there has to be somebody has to say, this is gonna be a 15-inch pipe, this needs to be a 24-inch pipe.
That is,
Alan, do y'all provide gravel when y'all put in?
we
driveway?
actually do.
See, all
But-
that needs to be,
But we are not getting reimbursed for the gravel. They are being charged for the pipe installation. But we just gotta get enough over the top of it so they can drive on it and everything.
If I move over here, will you mow my grass too?
I was gonna say, I'll just bring the gravel over on my road and not worry about the pipe.
Well,
One
my
question,
opinion is
Todd.
all about safety. I mean, I don't think it's a service we need to provide, but the actual condition of the pipe being placed in the driveway is about safety. Because you can have somebody that may just wanna buy a 20-foot stick and then have 4 6-foot straight banks on the end of it. And then if somebody runs off the side of the road, they've got no room to recover and it's just slant. And it should, when they should put two sticks of pipe in and grade it out and get a shape in it. That's my concern.
You're
And I see it what's done in the past is the past, but it seems like every driveway I see now has just got wait for some kid to slip off the road and we're gonna flip off.
Yep, you're correct, 100%. What you run into on the other back side of that is during the building process, the pipe goes in. Lowe's shows up with a box truck to deliver your windows or stoves, and they run off the edge of the culvert and they crush the culvert. They always do. I've seen it time and time again. They call the county and say, hey, your pipe got crushed. And there you are, every single time. So now this is like, no, your pipe got crushed. Or, my pipe don't flow water, because my pipe stopped up. Y'all need to come unstop my driveway pipe. It's not my driveway pipe no more. It's your driveway. It's your septic tank. I don't pump them neither.
Question.
Yes, sir.
When you say discontinue, this is something that the county gets paid for, right? It's different from animal railroad.
We are getting reimbursed for the pipe.
Okay, well, you're getting reimbursed for the pipe, you don't charge for the labor.
Or road.
Okay, so this, I guess my point is, there's several different ways to approach it.
Yes.
You can discontinue it, or you can charge enough and be in charge of ensuring that it's done properly and correctly,
Could.
where the county doesn't incur any cost,
If I had more manpower.
if you have the manpower.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But there's one more step in that, and that's gonna go into the gravel also. There's sales tax. Because we are a county government, we cannot sell to the public without collecting sales tax. We bought it tax exempt, we must sell it with sales tax. Now, once you do that, now we open up a finance problem. Because now we gotta start collecting sales tax. You hear me? We gotta start collecting sales tax. And then we gotta mail those sales tax checks in every month, or quarterly, to the state. We ain't in the retail business. All right? So, discuss restructuring gravel. Same situation. What we do now, currently, and y'all don't laugh, this is the way it's always been. We drive to Carlton, Elton, and we buy a dump truck load of gravel. I'm gonna use round numbers. $200. We're 30 minutes there, 15, 20 minutes to get loaded, and 30 minutes back. We got an hour and a half tied up in it. Now, we learned that any dump truck driver in the world that contracts to haul gravel, if they just charge you trucking, is $80 an hour. So we're an hour and a half into this. So right now, we're $120 into it. We got fuel, we got tires, When we went down there and we bought it, we brought it up here and we dumped it out at the road department, and you pull up with your dump truck and say, hey, I need to buy a load of gravel. All right, how much is it? $200? So that's what we paid for it. What did we lose? Every single time.
You're right.
Yeah, I was that way too, when I first heard it.
We're selling gravel to individuals.
Yes, sir.
Now, it's
Not-
not loads of gravel. It's
Yeah, we don't sell it by
Somebody-
the dump truck load, but
Somebody wants a scoop of gravel, go fix a pothole in their driveway, or somebody needs to cover it, somebody comes in and they price it by the scoop, and it's essentially based on the ton price of buying it. But what the chairman is saying is that when we do that, we don't consider the whole cost of what the gravel is.
so we actually lose.
Is it by the yard?
But then again, are we barking the sales tax business again?
It's an estimate, but they pretty well know how much is the scoop.
Yeah.
It's $20 a scoop or whatever, you know.
Like the guy that showed up, now he had a small dump truck, but it was a dump truck. And they didn't require a full tandem load of gravel, but he needed 6 or 8 or 10 scoops. Now, what did we just do for him? Not only did we cut him a great deal, but we saved him money, because he don't have to go all the way over to get it. So it's just a bad situation, but we can fix it.
When the county buys property tax exempt, we have to give that exemption affidavit.
Correct.
Doesn't it say not only that we're a governmental entity, but that we're using it for governmental purposes?
It might. I don't know that, sir. I'd like to look into it.
The high probability it does.
All right, so I don't think there's much question on any of those, at least those two, because of the sales tax thing. Discuss.
Before we.
Sure.
If we're talking about the gravel, make sure we think about this 2 ways. If you're talking about just pure, if you're gonna continue the service, and you're just talking about adjusting the price for it to realistically affect.
Yes, sir.
But now if we go now where Mike and Derek were, if we're thinking about this, something that the county should not be doing, period, then before we go completely whole hog on that, we need to make sure that there are other options.
Yes, sir.
That are available to the citizens.
I spoke to like Brett at Midway. He sells gravel by the scoop.
He's the one that has that available currently.
Yes, sir. Comer Hardware sells it also.
Okay.
Colbert says if we could sell it, we'd love to, but we never sold it because y'all give it away.
Backyard to Nature sells.
A Backyard of Nature sells it. There you go, that's right. I went to actually every single hardware store in the county. Started at Britt's, went from there to the Isle Hardware store. He said he couldn't do it only because he didn't have a place to store.
Right.
He would start with a driveway pipe, so he said, I'd love to be able to do that. Then come to Danielsville, and then went to Comer, and then went to Colbert. Yes, that was it. That's where I went.
We just need to, again, if we're going to ban that completely, we need to do it, give enough lead time so that some other folks can get set up and make sure that is available here.
And you know, hey, a brand new business may open up just like Backyard of Nature, but they come up on this end of town, look toward the Isle area. Because it would make good sense. I mean, people like to buy just one scoop of gravel just to fix the little holes at the end of the driveway. I think it's perfect out there.
Number 9.
The sand pit.
Number 9 was postponed to April 5th.
The sand pit, river box, $25 a ton.
I'm sorry?
When is Shelley going?
Next. Urgent matters.
What number 9?
We got it postponed to April 5th, is what it says on my paperwork. I thought you,
No, I talked to Rod about that, because of the length of this meeting, we did decide to postpone that.
yeah, I thought that's what was decided.
If I may say one thing, I'd like the board's permission just to move ahead with developing a plan for a citizens advisory board, and then present a proposal at that next work session. And that would involve contacting everybody here, getting everybody's ideas, and putting them all together into something we could work out when we meet here on the 5th.
Okay. To discuss creating any such committee is gonna take a little while in itself. probably an hour worth of conversation back and forth,
It would,
just to
yes.
create that. So, again, postponing it to April 5th is gonna be the next meeting period where we can bounce these ideas back and forth. We can leave it on that meeting, I have no problem with it.
Okay, well, I'll just bring everything I can to
Yeah,
that.
well, I know, I told you that we had a long meeting tonight, you said you wanted to sit in and just see how it works, so I'm glad you're here. Now you can gather, it's
Oh, it's been interesting.
real laid back, no more coming to the microphone and I do all that stuff. This
And
is,
now I know too who to call when I have a question, you know.
yeah, Webster, I'm a dictionary here. I appreciate him, I've known him a long time. By the way, he ran, for Franklin County Chairman this past quarter.
Lost by 514.
Huh?
Lost by 514.
Yeah, there you go.
That's close.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. Ms. Shelley Farm. So under urgent matters, you will see before you some contracts. You might wanna
Yeah, I
come
was
up,
gonna say,
we
I was
can't
just
see
gonna-
you back there, you too far away. And I would just like for you to start off letting the board know what you're dealing with on a daily basis, please.
So it's extremely busy right now. It's only me and our programmer because we haven't hired an assistant director yet. So there's a lot of phone calls, a lot of things going on. Here lately, it's been a lot of disrespect. Phone calls of parents being upset or mad and cursing at me or cursing about somebody else, telling us things that are very appropriate that we can go and do with balls and whatnot. So it's been a lot. It's been kind of hard.
What's all that about?
Full time.
So the cursing was with a coach. We had a parent who said that they had a court order to not be around this coach. So we swapped players, and that coach proceeded to look me up on Facebook, send me messages, not once sent an email to my work email or anything. The following Monday, I was dealing with it and trying to get in touch with the parent. They called the office multiple times, this coach did. Was told what we knew, that we were trying to get in touch with the parent. After getting in touch with the parent said that she didn't realize there were two people with the same name in the county, so it was her mistake. We put teams back the way they were. This coach showed up at the office. Prior to that, somehow they got my personal cell phone number from somebody that they still won't tell me who. Called my cell phone 4 times, then showed up to the office and proceeded to just, fuss about everything. Then that coach's, the other coach that was helping, called the office the next day, fussed me out about the whole situation, cursed about the parent who had made the mistake, and told me that they would never coach under me again, that I would never make it, that I wouldn't last very long, and that I could take every ball that we had at the right park each other.
This is just the first time. That was the first go around. This was 2 weeks ago, right? Now, I'm in the middle of every one of these conversations with all parties involved. There was one mistake made, and it was corrected quickly.
So we thought everything was fine, and then I got that the next day after we put everything back the way it was. Then they backed out of coaching, so we found another coach. Their grandchild wanted to be moved to a different team. I told them that we couldn't do that he would still get to play, but he would still be on this team. And I was told that I would do this and I would do that, and this is how it was going to be, and then I was called a which would it be, and they hung up on me.
Now, This topic, we're past now.
We are
right?
past
We're
this.
completely past this topic.
we've
Let's
moved
go to
this.
the next topic.
Next topic is, parents being upset because they've missed registration and literally cursing me up and down one side and the other because of it, because they missed registration, and telling me that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or I'm going to come up to the office and show my butt, essentially. So, yeah.
All right, now let's go to the next topic. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, if she's way better person than I am. 'Cause she's took a lot.
So
She
now
has
we're
took a lot.
to the point of, we have on the weekends, we have a lot of travel ball teams who come and use our facilities, but they don't call the office, they show up even when we have teams scheduled, thinking that they can use it, it's first come, first serve. And it's not, it hasn't been that way for, it was changed when Robin was here. Last year, we changed everything in January because of us being able to offer baseball, softball, so we had to accommodate, our programs. So with that, we had some travel ball teams, obviously with COVID and everything, that changed a lot. We did have some travel ball teams. One of them in particular actually held tryouts at our facilities, advertised those that I found out after the fact. Didn't call the rec department once and ask to use our facilities, that, that they were even gonna be there. I showed up on a Sunday because I had to get stuff for Monday for a meeting, and there's people on all of our fields. And so that's tough, showing up and not knowing what's going at your own park. So I had a conversation with the person who runs that organization and said that for future, they needed to call and reserve fields, or if they wanted to work out like a facility use agreement, like what we have with, or had with MCYA and, had with, the Little League, and that we currently have with PATH, volleyball. So we talked about all that they needed to reserve fields and everything. And yesterday, I went to the park and they were there on all the fields. And still thought that everything was first come, first served, even though I had actually already had the conversation with them about it. They have, it seems that they have no problem paying to use the fields and reserving fields during the week, but don't think they need to do that on the weekends. So that's kind of been a problem with that. And yesterday, my conversation with them was that everything is my fault. They could do this when Robin was there, they could do that when Robin was there, and that I'm running people out of Madison County, and that nobody's gonna wanna use our fields, who we're getting them ready for, other than just our rec programs, who's gonna play on them. And so as I was walking in my car, I don't know who exactly, I did get stopped by an older gentleman who asked, was I the recreation director? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, you're just ruining everything for Madison County. And then just walked off and then just yelled at me from the fields that it was all my fault.
So what we have, besides just people being disrespectful, is everything she said, we have documents for. And I ain't talking about her reports, I'm talking about field use agreements stating what you can and can't do on the fields, rules, policies. Some of them literally agreed, for one, we don't pay for fields, remember? And then it was like,
Oh,
well,
yeah,
it's
that was-
$25. Well, I didn't pay that last year to Robin Lemon, now you just told us you didn't pay anything, they thought it was free.
It was a lot of, well, I'm a taxpayer, I can do this,
Yeah,
and.
this
and
is
I
the
can do
biggest
that, like, I
misconception
paid-
in Madison
I paid
County
for this.
history, is that word right there.
And, it's, you look at the one for Sammy Haggard, it's, for 2 hours to rent a ball field is $30. And, that, I don't know, he was like, well, we used to pay 26. I'm like, I don't know where that number came from, because that's the first time I've ever heard that number. But, you've been paying $30 during the week when you rent it, plus $10 for lights, per hour. So, but it was a lot of, you know, I'm a taxpayer, I can do this, I can do that. I mean, last Saturday, we had practices, and they showed up and, had their own rakes, had their own equipment to, like, mess with our fields and to make them playable. Of which they didn't think that, you know, there was anything wrong with that, and, you know, it's county property, that's not appropriate to be doing things like that. You wouldn't do it to your neighbor, cause, you know, so, but I don't know, at this point, I'm just kinda asking, like, what do you kinda want me to, how do you want me to handle this?
First of all, I don't think it should be a mutual use agreement. Travel ball teams, you can get players from Jackson County Commerce, this and that. I think this facility rental form is perfectly fine. Travel ball teams pay, and players and families pay a certain fee, and within that fee should include money towards fields, is the way I see it. With MCYA and with the Little League in the past, we know those are Madison County citizens. There's where I see a good facility. But mutual use agreement. Plus, you're talking softball and baseball, and you're opening up a whole can of worms. I feel like the facility rental form is perfectly fine for that. I'm concerned, because there's no, we aren't paying for anybody to supervise on Saturday or Sunday, are we?
Oh, we do when we have our practices.
When you have your practices, okay.
We schedule.
And then, let's say if somebody does want to, if they fill this out, will somebody be there during that time? Because if you're paying for lights, they have to turn on lights, correct? Or-
Right, yeah, so in the evenings,
So you
yeah,
would-
so we have staff there
Yeah.
whenever they pay for
Right,
lights and
right.
everything, to turn them on and everything. So like Saturdays, like going to, you know, like a special event or something
Sure.
like that, we do have staff there to
Yeah.
make sure that, you know, everything is the way it needs to be.
Sure.
If anything happens, then they know where things are or who to call to, you know, find out that information, so, that's just kind of where the individual rental is, like, we know what's going on. The facility use can still be put as a cost, if that's more for, you know, extended period of time,
Mhm.
whereas the
Sure,
rental
sure.
form is just more of like a one-day thing.
Mhm.
But I know that these, travel ball teams are coming out to our fields every Sunday and most of the Saturdays, and are there at the park.
And we don't have a rental agreement with them?
No, sir, we don't.
A facility rental form, not agreement. I don't wanna, I don't think we need to get into an agreement, but they're not even filling out any forms.
No,
There's
just here.
nothing documented, so they're not paying for the use
Right.
of the facilities.
Correct.
Right.
The only time that they felt like they needed to reserve a field is during the week, when we were busy. That's what I was told. I will tell you, so today, we had one travel ball team call twice and ask for field space on Thursdays, asked for field space on Wednesday, and then we were told, no, we're not at that, then they called and asked for a different facility. That one is also booked with our teams practicing and everything. I know on yesterday, there was 3 different, travel ball organizations on our fields yesterday.
And there were no county employees scheduled to be there
No, sir.
in any
Because we
type
didn't
of
know they were there.
supervisory role or anything.
No, sir, because we didn't have any of our scheduled practices yesterday.
From a legal standpoint, they were trespassing, because
Exactly.
they were made aware
Yeah.
to call my office and schedule to be there and fill out this form, so we know who's on our field. If there was destruction of private property, we would not have known who to go to, she would have found no money around.
And that's
Because
kind of what I
technically-
tried to explain to them yesterday. They were like, well, why is it this way? I said, well, you know, we need to know what's going on in our parks and our facilities, because if we get a phone call, you know, Monday or whatever day, you know, they may be out there, and they're like, you know, such and such happened, and I have no idea what's going on, then that looks bad on me, and it looks bad on our department, that we have no idea
And
what's
there's an
going on.
insurance liability also that everybody's forgetting.
I was gonna ask, and I remember from having children 100 years ago in the rec department. Even then, we had like a hold harmless thing that we, as parents, we sign for our children, but I don't see, and I may have missed it in going through this, in our rental agreements, I don't see much like that in there.
Like an insurance waiver type deal?
Basically, that's what it amounts to.
We
And I may have missed it because this
Yeah.
I got.
As far as like the individual, like the hourly rental, we haven't done anything as far as that insurance goes that I'm aware of. Now, when participants register with us, they do sign the waivers and everything like that, not holding us liable for anything. And then the facility use agreement, which also kind of ties and goes along with the special event policy, that's in there. But as far as the individual rental form, we don't.
Well, I mean, from my standpoint on this, and, you're charged with the responsibility of managing the rec department. And whether it's Saturday or Sunday, we as a board are not gonna relieve you of that responsibility. And for someone to use those facilities without your knowledge, basically I would have to agree with Todd there, that basically comes down to trespassing. To use those facilities without paying posted fees that I assume somewhere they had agreed to, because you said they used them during the week and they had to pay fees then.
Yeah, they've been paying, so we have certain teams that have been using and paying to use our fees. Even the one team that, or the one organization that uses it, the biggest organization, have been using and reserving fields for as long as I can remember, especially during the week.
So that organization, how many teams are associated with it, approximately?
Probably 9 or 10, maybe. I mean, it's an Georgia Raiders.
Yeah,
But
it looks like
it wouldn't
this,
matter,
the,
it wouldn't matter if it's
Right.
on county boundaries.
Right, yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, the one time, I guess the rental form is basically for one time short uses.
Yes.
And so there's just an indemnity clause, and yeah, there, the third paragraph does have an indemnity clause. It doesn't require insurance, which, you know, it might be prohibited. And I think you got a lot of that, you looked at a lot of what a lot of other counties do. Probably prohibitive for somebody to go out and get an insurance policy for just a single use like that. But I think the other two agreements that are for, well, one's for like large special events and the other is for continued facilities use. They both do have the requirement of a minimum $1 million limits insurance policy.
Thank you. Just believe, sure.
I didn't really wanna get into this whole argument. Right, at that point, it was me against quite a few people who were very unhappy with me. We did ask them last Saturday to leave, and that's when they moved to another field and then raked the field and did everything to it and was like, well, who can I just give my $30 to? And I was like, I don't have staff there I mean, I had staff there, but I didn't have staff, you know, capable of taking in money and then going into the office and, you know, processing and everything, so.
So you asked them to leave because you had other things scheduled. And I wanna make sure I got
Yeah.
a handle on everything. And they simply moved from one field to another.
They did, yeah. So, and that's where it's like of how do I, like, without calling and telling them so many times, or, you know, like, I did have the conversation with the director or whoever is in charge of North Shore Raiders back in November about the policy and reserving facilities and stuff like that. And so it's like, how many times do we go and we have those conversations? And so this time I went up there and, you know, face to face had that conversation instead of just over the phone. And at that point, you know, should I have, you know, called Michael and said, hey, I need, you know, deputies over here, so at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's very close.
Right across the street.
Go get him, call me.
So, but that's the.
Do we have some type of public placard notice though? I mean, completely understand your difficulties here and there. Nobody should be treating you that way. However, being with travel ball, we don't practice in county by no means, but I practice all over here. But we need to make sure the general public is involved in this too, because what's the difference in them using the field versus 5 people going and exercising on the track? You know, there's always the argument, you always got 2 sides to every argument, you know what I mean? So if, and by all means, I'm with you with, this is rec department property equipment, it needs to stay that way. However, it needs to be kinda across the board, every facility used, you should have some type of permission or a lease agreement or something, you know?
What it's gonna inevitably be done is we're gonna have to lock everything up.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna have to happen, because there's a huge misconception on, I pay taxes, I have a right to that.
It's not a public park though.
Here's the thing, it's open to the public, I mean, it's open, in an open area. You don't have doors that you can lock. I promise you, the misconception of the taxpayers is you pay taxes so you feel like you're obligated to it. Walk into jail and try that. You
You'll
bought
be
that
obligated
building
to it.
You're
You'll
a
be there.
taxpayer, you bought that building. Try going in there without permission. It don't work out real well. Same way with this one. You can come up here on Sunday and you can jerk on this courthouse. You pay taxes and you bought it, but the door still's not left unlocked. And for her, she has an unlocked facility that she's trying to manage, and when she tries to do her job by the rule book, not making it up from the hip, she's being, utterly disrespected to the form of no employee, back again, no employee needs to be talked to the way you've been talked to, and I don't appreciate it, and you can print that boldly, I'm fine with that. But these people are not going to be, they're only doing their job, they really are. Go ahead, Josh.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Josh Channel.
Josh.
Yes, sir.
Shelley, that behavior should never happen, and I apologize for that, for whoever. You should not have to endure that. I mean, people's ability is gone for some reason. But, kind of cueing off the other gentleman, do we need to help you, and I'm asking, do we need to help you get some signage up that, and I'm going all the way down this road? So, I'm trying to make a distinction, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to make a distinction where, dad and kid wants to go,
Right.
And that's different, and, they should be respectful anyway, but, I'm not in the rec department business, so I don't know what the proper signage should be, but, something along, organizational use of the facilities, gotta be, pre-bridge. I don't know what the right thing to say,
Reserved or-
but at the end of the day, where I'm getting at is, when somebody says, I don't like this, you can say, it's on that sign, I'm sorry, my boss has said, if, you can't comply with that, I gotta call the guy next door. And it may not end it right there, but help can be on the way quickly.
Right, and I think that's where everybody, because when I was trying to explain yesterday, I was like, this is any organized event, that's not done by the right department needs to be scheduled through the office. And they were like, well, this is just a practice. I'm like, but it's still an organized event because you're not associated with us. So maybe something, to that effect on a sign that, any organized event that's not, run by the right department or a program by the right department or something like that, be put up on facilities.
Well, for example, say even if it was a facility, or even if it was, our softball, baseball teams that we were running, and, it rained Monday through Wednesday, and one of the coaches said, hey, let's gather after church, you wanna go practice.
Right, they still need to call.
But that's fine, they should know that as being part of our organization.
Mhm.
But if somebody's out there bootlegging it, then we can't provide that service for somebody that's signed up and
That's
going
playing by
through
the
our
rules.
organization.
Right.
That's playing by the rules.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Josh,
Yes, sir.
just to ask, and here again, we all from the country here, was you involved in what went on?
No,
over
sir.
there?
No, sir, I was not involved.
You know the folks that were
No,
involved
sir.
in this?
I play with Inferno out of Franklin County. We practice in Carnesville and, Livonia.
I'm not so sure too. I know we have seasonal employees, but spring and summer is a great time of the year. And I'm not so sure if we shouldn't have seasonal supervision on the weekends.
Mhm.
you know.
And I thought about that too. I
Right.
was like, you know,
And
do we
it's
just
something that maybe we want to just
put a staff person out there for?
That way you know what's going on, if there's something, I don't know, I think it's something that we need to consider, quite honestly.
I mean, technically, you're only talking about 2 days.
Right,
Saturday and
right.
Sunday.
And if it's,
Like a
Most of the
security
time
guard.
over there
Like
on
a security guard.
Saturdays.
it's
But you have the
coaching
sheriff's
3
department, too.
players, yeah, I mean, and their rec department team, you know, I get that, and running on the track, but if it's an organizational,
That's what I was saying, Randy, too.
Right.
I need some type of notification, you know, that way,
exactly,
these softball coaches and their 47 people can't go down there and jump on
right,
me for walking on the track with my kid, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because
And
there's
that's my
boundaries.
Because
That-
the way she's been talked to
That's
over
uncalled
the past month, I'm afraid somebody is going to try to take it to the next level.
Well, that's one thing that did get brought up. They were like, what about all the kids playing on the basketball court? Do they not have reservations for that? And I was like, I mean, they're pickup games. I mean, there's 20, 30 kids up there, but they're all, you know,
There's no head
taking their
coach.
turns. There's nobody kind of running it. It's all
That's
high
what the-
school
yeah,
kids,
the
like,
rec departments.
you know, that kind of thing. And so they were like, what's the difference in us being out here doing that? And I'm like, well,
I would agree with Teresa on that we need to have someone there when people are using the facilities. What I'm concerned, or what would concern me a great deal, is if we were to put someone out there, a season 14, 15, 16-year-old, and if comments like you shared with us were directed at you, what would they say to a child? And forgive me, but here again, I was a coach too, and, you know, sometimes things could get a little more intense than it needed to be. And if you choose to do that, you know, if you wanted to have people there on the weekends, which I guess I would strongly recommend, it needs to be someone who can speak with some authority for the rec department, but also knows that there's a resource immediately available that if it begins to move in the wrong direction, you don't need to argue with anybody. You don't need to walk away. All you need to do is call 911 and then let them deal with it.
Yeah, even if you had the seasonal help, like you said, if the seasonal help looks out there and sees a team on the field, the first thing the seasonal help should do is call a deputy or staff 24 hours a day. Have a deputy ride over, walk out with the seasonal help and say, okay, here's the rules. 9 times out of 10, that shiny badge gets a lot further than anything else.
And I know you're understaffed, I mean, you know, we get that.
Right.
And, you know, once we do get fully staffed, it may be a consideration, you know, and I know we're not talking here and now, but where, you know, I've worked at rec departments before, you know, you've got that employee that works Wednesday through Sunday, you know, that ain't something down the road, but, you know, you certainly want somebody, not a 15, 14.
right, yeah,
Sure,
no.
no.
Well, Shelley, that's the reason I asked you to be here tonight, because you get to talk to
We support you.
all 4 of your bosses, or all 5 of your bosses.
Right.
Because I told her, I invited her to come, because I wanted her to give this board an understanding of what's going on without just my one opinion. I wanted everybody to chime in and know, and I think you saw that they do have your back, and they do, and you do have support. You're not just on an island, and I'm really proud of this board for standing behind you for that.
And, you know, growing up, my girls both played travel ball, and I understand that. But, I do understand too, what travel ball is about. And, you know, it is, you're not, you know, we drove to Cobb County for practices. I wish we could be in Madison. Yeah, so, but, you know, there's a fee that they're charging, you know, you just respect that, and you pay the facility usage, and you practice and carry on and.
Have a good time.
Right.
So, yeah, we support you.
Anything else, Ms.
Yeah,
Shelley?
just one thing and I'm like Eric, I apologize if you have to deal with that. There's no excuse for anybody behaving like that, and I apologize.
Yeah.
And I'm serious, I'm pretty close. If you can't get sheriff, I'll come in and stand inside. and I appreciate the support of the board here, you are the Record Director. And you're the position of authority, and you got our support. So you do what needs to be done, you make what call needs to be made.
As long as it's in black and white.
Yeah, as long as it's written policy.
Yeah.
As you think through, what maybe needs to be done, do keep in mind that you got the basketball court there, you got the tennis courts, and you have the track there, that sort of gives the illusion that this is open. So, as you're thinking through the best way to handle it, and you're thinking up your signage and going over the rules, et cetera, just realize that there is the perception there from driving down the road that this is open. So, just keep that in mind, and I do encourage you, like Teresa says, if you're, as you get more experience being a director and you see some avenues where the county can provide better service and better handle situations like that. So as we come up to budget time next year, see that I think we can provide more service if we create a position that can be here during the weekend, those kind of things. So think outside the box, how you and your staff can do your job best, and I can assure you, we certainly will hear those ideas.
Security cameras ain't gonna be no bad idea.
Well, that's one thing
Coming
that,
budget.
yeah, we've talked about, and I've called some people to try to get them to come out and give us some pricing on.
We have people in-house that does it, believe it or not. Our IT guy, they do it.
So,
They'll be more than happy to take a look at it, and we'll get to that point.
cause we did have like vandalism and stuff, and just fixed down in those bathrooms. Has a
The
new
playground
playground.
looks good,
So,
the little playground
it
area.
does, it looks good.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody have anything else for Ms. Pond? If not,
And then what Terry was saying, like out of the basketball area, look for whatever signage, I mean, you know what probably needs to be done, be it, your organizations and stuff like that, so don't be shy, just
Right.
thinking, oh, I need it right here on this field, look at your facilities, and I'm sure we can figure out a way to get some signage made, put up, and make sure that Michael and his team knows that we're not gonna tolerate this kind of stuff.
We got a little playground area there also. Playground area, you get the picnic, all that, just make sure you're thinking.
yeah, we
about
have all of those, and that's really like, you look on the back of that sheet, the rental form, it has like the policy, it says, like for the pavilions, really encourage rentals and everything like that, cause they're all, and whatnot, so we just need some more,
You'll see a mom, a couple of kids playing on the playground, they'll have kids on the other sandwiches.
yeah.
So
picnic
there-
things,
some of that needs to be loud.
so. Right,
But there needs to be different. What we're talking about now, just need to come up with some way to differentiate the two.
yeah, and that's the hardest part, so.
you have other county resources also,
Yes.
surrounding counties, and see how they handle it. Between, 4 or 5 counties and your own decision-making and bouncing ideas off of us, we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
If it's definitely their working hours, call out, a well-placed backhoe to somebody to take.
Bucket on the hood right now.
All right. If no one has anything else for tonight, I will ask for a motion to close the public work session and open an executive session to discuss some personal matters. Or do we have to have a motion to go into executive session?
That's right, yeah, did you say it's for personnel?
For personnel matters?
Personnel or personal?
Personal matters, sorry. Personnel.
Personnel.
Okay, yeah. It has to be personnel. Yeah.
So moved.
Motion by Derek, second by Terry. Yes, yes, thank you. We will come back out of the executive session, but we have nothing else on the agenda for tonight.
Young lady.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to, I need a vote to approve the minutes of the executive session.
Get motion to approve
Second.
minutes of the executive session.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Adams, second by Ms. Bettis. All in favor? It's unanimous. I need, there is no motion to adjourn for tonight's meeting, is it?
You can just declare it adjourned, that's fine.
Yeah.
With unanimous
I declare this meeting
consent.
adjourned.